Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachak Kodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone, and then I've respected brothers out there pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, I just wanted to do a lesson or continue on a series for the book of Zephaniah, and Lord willing, this be edifying. Now, just to repeat a point that I made in my prior video, is that the book of Zephaniah is dealing with prophetic prophecy, concerning the latter days, right? And so the judgment that we're going to be reading about, it's going to be concerning nations in the area of Palestine. And even if you come across ancient words like the Cherethites or Ashkelon, right, or Ammon or Moab, you gotta understand that, it's still talking about that region and how, according to scriptures, the Battle of Armageddon is going to take place in that area. But at the end of the day, the indignation of the Lord will be in the form of nuclear missiles, and it's going to hit that area. And that whole area is going to be made desolate, right? It's going to be burnt to a crisp, to the intent that it may cleanse the area of the wickedness that was done over there, and to usher in the kingdom of heaven that's going to be rebuilt through Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So that was it. The first one dealt with Judah, right? The day of judgment on Judah. And now that same judgment, which was mentioned on Judah, about the desolation and what was it? A day of darkness and gloominess and of thick clouds and thick darkness. That same judgment is what's continuing on. But instead of Judah being warned, now the message is upon, as you see in the title, Judah's enemies. So Zephaniah Chapter 2 verse 1, it says, "Gather yourself together, yea, gather together, O nations not desired, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the shaft, before the fierce anger of the Lord Yahweh come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you." And that decree being brought forth is through his men, right? The men of the Lord that go out into the highways and the byways, and we speak of things before it comes to pass, right? Before the anger of the Lord is made manifest, he reveals that secret. He has revealed that secret unto his prophets. And until that evil day comes upon the city, the men of the Lord, it is our job to speak, right, of what is to come, because it is our job. We are the guest, right? No, actually, the guests are those if I'm not mistaken, the guests are going to be those that are burnt up, if I'm not mistaken. Or let's look at that but we are the what was it? The priest, right? No, so the guests are not going to be the ones being right here. He has set apart his guests, so his guests are going to be the priest, right? So a sacrifice is prepared, and his guests are those who prepare the sacrifice, and that'll be the men of the Lord, who, through the Spirit, all the tribes have become what? Priest in Yahweh Shai. Pursuant to the book of First Peter, let me see, priesthood. First Peter 2:9, it says, "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Okay? So Zephaniah says, before the decree bring forth, those are going to be what? The priest, the guest of that sacrifice. It says, "Seek ye the Lord Yahweh, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness, it may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger, right? Because Scripture says that the righteous shall scarcely make it, right? And so when you are understand that, yeah, the Lord will deliver, but if the deliverance is scarce and the deliverance is that, yeah, you barely made it, it'll encourage you. It breeds a mindset of, let me do everything in my power to best serve the Lord. And that is the kind of, you know, the kind of um, attitude that it's trying to stir up when he uses things like this. It may be that ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord, right? We know that the righteous will be delivered, but the way it's worded here is so that you work harder, right? That's it's as simple as that. Verse 4 says, "For Gaza shall be forsaken, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday, and Ekron shall be rooted up. Woe unto the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nations of the Cherethites. The word of the Lord Yahweh was against you, O Canaan, the land of the Palestinians. I will even destroy thee, that there shall be no inhabitant." Right? Again, as I said in the beginning, that these ancient names are all in that region of Palestine that is meant to be dissolved, pursuant to the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter. Okay, it says, "The sea coast shall be dwellings for the cottages, for shepherds, and folds for flocks." So at this point, it's simply saying that, yeah, it is the judgment of the Lord is going to come upon that place, and it's going to be a desolation. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a dwelling, a safe haven for Jake, right, for Israel. So when we look at verse 6 in a different translation, it says, "The seacoast shall be pastures," right, "with shelters for the shepherds and folds for flocks," right? The Palestine coast will become a wilderness pasture, a place of shepherd camps and enclosures for sheep and goats, right? The land by the sea will become pastures, having wells for sheep and pens for flocks. Yeah, I like the NIV. Always on point. Verse 7, it says, "And the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They shall feed thereupon," right? Because this area that is being described in a fruitful, peaceful manner is meant only for what? The house of Israel. "And the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They shall feed thereupon. In the houses of Ashkelon shall they lie down in the evening, for the Lord Yahweh their God shall visit them and turn away their captivity." Let me double check this real quick. Right. So Genesis 15 and 18, you're just going to see how vast the land really is. 15, 18. So Genesis 15:17, "And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces." And this is when the Lord was making a covenant with Abraham. "And in the same day, the Lord Yahweh made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt," which is the Nile, "unto the great river, the river Euphrates." Okay, so let me see if I can type that in Wikipedia. No, let me just put Middle East map. Right, this is much better. Okay, so from the river, I believe this is it. right? Because the green that you see here are the forest or vegetations that have grown along the Nile River. So from this all the way up onto the Euphrates, this whole area here has been promised unto the nation of Israel. And all the nations that we've been mentioning in the book of Zephaniah, they're all located within this region, okay? So I have heard the reproach of Moab and the rivalings of the children of Ammon, whereby they have reproached my people and magnified themselves against their border. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah. Even the breathing of nettles and salt pits, and a perpetual desolation. The residue of my people shall spoil them, and a remnant of my people shall possess them. Right? This shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Now remember how the same thing was said about Judah, right? Because of the pride, all that they have, the Lord was going to give, right? Right? Their goods shall become a booty. He shall search Jerusalem with candles. And it says, their goods shall become a booty, and their houses a desolation, right? They shall also build houses, but not inherit them. They shall plant vineyard, but not drink the wine thereof, right? So, the judgment, when the Lord brings that judgment, you're going to have people, Israelites, and even heathens, because everyone who was not for the Lord will be against the Lord, and everyone who is against the Lord will be in that mindset, pride, and oh, I have riches, I've gained this, that, and the third, and what's the word, self-made, uh, whatever it is that they say, right? But the Lord is laughing at them, and eventually He's gonna rub. He's gonna. That's what He says. Like He compared it to like worse than if a grape gatherer comes in. Because if they come in and they rob, a robber can only take as much as they can carry. But when the Lord makes you desolate, He destroys everything. All right. So, woe unto the inhabitants of the seacoast and the nations of the Cherethites. The word of the Lord Yahweh is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Palestines. I will even destroy thee, that there be no inhabitant. Let me see. Did I skip any? Oh, yeah. I went back, actually. Verse 9. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah, even the breeding of nettles and salt pits, and a perpetual desolation. The residue of my people shall spoil them, and a remnant of my people shall possess them. This shall they have for their pride. In other words, they will go into captivity. Okay? So it says, this shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Right? Because, we know that according to prophecy, let me get it right now. Isaiah. It talks about how, really all the nations are going to have their land that is that was given to them by the Lord, except they're just going to give their riches to Jake. Right. It says, all the kings of the nations, even all of them, they lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou, which is Esau, art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, as the remnant of those that are slain. So yeah, the destruction is coming, right? But eventually, the areas are going to be restored. These nations are going to be restored, right? Except for Esau. After his captivity, there is nothing left for him, right? Because he is the son of perdition. He's the embodiment of wickedness. And if wickedness is supposed to be put away from the kingdom of heaven, then he would have no place in that. And so a perpetual desolation is more like a hyperbole, right? And the residue of my people shall spoil them, and and the residue of my people shall spoil them. In other words, we will take their riches, and a remnant of my people shall possess them. They will be our slaves. Okay, it says, and this shall they have for their pride, because they have reproached and magnified themselves against the people of the Lord Yahweh of hosts. Verse 11, the Lord Yahweh will be terrible unto them, for he will famish all the gods of the earth, and men shall worship him, every one from his place, even all the isles of the heathen. Yea, Ethiopians also, ye shall be slain by my sword, right? Yeah, these nations are gonna get it, you know. and he will stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Assyria, and will make Nineveh a desolation and dry like a wilderness. And this is what was it? I'm thinking of the book of Nahum. Yeah, the book of Nahum, where it describes Babylon as Nineveh, and it being destined for desolation and being a perpetual wilderness. So, you know, but I think, let me see. Yeah, I just wanted to see something real quick. I was like, maybe things were gonna escalate beyond the Euphrates. Could be, because this is usually also where Assyria or Nineveh is located. So, either way you look at it, whether this region, whether the Battle of Armageddon is going to go from the EC up until, what was it? Yeah, the EC, which is the Euphrates, onto the utmost sea, which is the Red Sea, right? Or if it's going to go beyond, but we know that, Babylon, which is also referred to as Nineveh, will be a desolate wilderness. And so, and dry like a wilderness, and the flock shall lie down in the midst of her, and all the beasts of the nations, both the cormorant and the bittern, shall lodge in the upper lintels of it. Their voice shall sing in the windows. Desolation shall be in the thresholds, for he shall uncover the cedar work. This is the rejoicing city that dwelt carelessly. So this is talking about Babylon, right? Let's see. Yep, desert owls. The pride city will become a pasture for flocks and herds, and all sorts of wild animals will settle there. The desert owl and the screech owl will roost in its ruined columns, their calls echoing through the gaping windows, and rubble will block all the doorways, and the cedar paneling will be exposed to the weather, right? Yep, I think I gotta do a little more on that, but that the flocks here, if it's talking about Babylon, it'll probably be like the what's this? The dromedaries and the camels over there, and the that are like for desert creatures and all. I'm not really sure, but it is talking about Babylon, right? And when you hear the word wilderness, it's usually a place where that is not like cultivated, or like it isn't dwelt, right? And a place where no one lives there, and that's usually what the scriptures refer to as a wilderness. So whenever you hear wilderness, it's not always a place of like, oh, there's trees and jungles and it's a rainforest. No, that's not what the wilderness is talking about. So This is the rejoicing city that dwelt carelessly, that said in her heart, I am, and there is none beside me. How she has become a desolation, a place for beasts to lie down in. Everyone that passeth by her shall hiss and wag his hand, right? And I believe this is, where have I seen it? There's so many places where Babylon is spoken of like that. But, yeah, 47. Revelation 18. Yep, the staff of the wicked. Yep. So, Zephaniah 2 at the very end kind of addresses Babylon, but ultimately this is talking about the destruction that the Lord is bringing. And we know, according to prophecy, that it's the concentration of the Lord's indignation will first and foremost be in Babylon and in Palestine also. So, this is the book of Zephaniah, the second chapter. I hope this is edifying. In closing, we want to give our praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom Akim, Yahweh Bashem Brakatham.